Hey, do you mind just jumping online and just double checking that this is working because I'm not 100% sure it is. Nothing? Is it saying it's streaming? I'm there? Okay, perfect. Okay. Alright, thanks buddy. Alright, sorry everybody, a few technical issues. It's a little bit strange because I can't see myself, so I'll promise I'll create the technology for next time. But, okay, so thank you so much for your attendance. This is a bit of a crash course, so we're going to zip through these slides fairly quickly today. We're going to look at the 10 steps that we feel that anybody would benefit from when looking for work. So just as an overview of the content, these are the 10 steps that we're going to focus on. So we've got the resume, what to do when writing a resume, your cover letter, how to network, or what you should be doing when networking, looking at your personal transferable skills. And then we've broken up the interview into 3 different stages, the before the interview, during and after. Then we're going to talk about your personal brand, your LinkedIn, and application tracking systems. Again, with all of these, I'll go into a lot more depth in individual sessions. I just figured it might be well worth is having a look at going through everything in one session, so when people are coming for support, they can watch this video which does an overview of everything, and then we can get into the weeds with the individual sessions. So hope that all makes sense. Again, apologies for the start. Here goes. So with a resume, we always try and say avoid using a photo when possible. If you go on to flume.com /resumes, what you'll find is there's a whole heap of different resume templates that you can use, and these have been created, designed, and what have you by graphic designers. So there's a few really sleek ones in there. The contemporary one is one I've made reference to in the resume career coaching session. I look at, well, how long have I been working? Almost 14 years I've been in the recruitment industry, and throughout that time I've been looking at resumes, and I must admit, when people make the effort to use a template or one that looks like it's been done professionally, it does make a difference. And if it's the little 1%ers that you're looking for to get your details in front of decision makers, then I'd highly recommend you spend some time, get a template for your resume, and then it's a case of just changing the information and maybe a few bullet points, and it's a lot easier doing it that way than just starting with a blank canvas. So highly recommend you use one of those templates. Always keep your contact details on the top of the resume. You'd be amazed how many people don't use hyperlinks in a resume. So hyperlink your email address. So imagine most people are going to be reading your resume online and not in a physical paper format. So hyperlink your email address, so I can click on that, it should mail to and be able to email you directly. I will encourage you all to get a LinkedIn profile. So once you've got that, put the URL of your LinkedIn profile. You can put an image and do a hyperlink URL to your page. If all of this sounds a little bit technical, I can break it down and explain how to hyperlink correctly. But in essence, make sure that the correct details are on the top. If I'm interested, I don't want to have to go around the houses trying to get hold of you. It should be literally a click away. And then make sure that you put your education and your work experience along with your volunteering experience, where it's clear to be seen. So the reason I like those Loom templates, the one I put in the session, there's like a section on the right hand side where you can put all of your education, history, your volunteering or your skills, and then you can go into your work experience in that kind of chronological order. With everything, you're presenting a document to a decision maker who's potentially going to give you a career. Make sure that you check the grammar. Make sure that you go through that, and if you're not quite sure, there are spell check functions on word processing programs, whichever one you use. You can use an online one. It's called Grammarly.com. Be sure to set the language to Australian English for obvious reasons, because it is American, there will be errors in there. All of this is free, by the way. You can go on Grammarly.com and get that for free. I think it's a little bit more intuitive than a spell check. Reason being, it will pick up, the right use of commas, that type of thing. So it might be a bit easier for you to use. But rule of thumb with your resume: make sure somebody's constantly checking your document and making sure that it's accurate. Also, make sure the dates are accurate in your resume. If you're saying that you're working at a certain place for between this date and that date, and then you get to reference stage, and the first question is, can I confirm that this candidate worked between these dates? Well, if the dates are wrong on your resume, it's really not a good start. So just double and triple check those types of things. Include enough information for employers to make an informed decision. Aim for around 2 pages ideally. Tweak your resume for each opportunity you're applying for. It's really, really important. We go into ATS, application tracking systems, in a session, but basically what you need to do is be really clear on the type of role that you're going to go for before you even think about writing a resume. And then what you're going to do, you're going to tailor your skill sets, your experience, your ambitions, to mirror that role description, if you like. So if it's a job title that you're looking for, make sure that you keep refining your resume. So, for example, you could be going for an administration role in a government department. So you might want to put some information around what you've done in the public sector, or even whatever evidence you think is relevant for that specific role description or job ad. And then you might be sending an application for a support role, supporting an executive, similar skills, similar tasks, but you might want to word it and design your resume a little bit differently, just so it mirrors what the client are asking for. An extra tip would be highlight your skills and all kind of numbers in bold. So for example, if you've exceeded expectation and you've got certain skills that aren't really expected for you, then make sure that all of those types of things are highlighted correctly. And I think with the resume itself, it's got to be really clear, and you've got to use the consistency in your formatting, which again we'll go into in a bit more depth when we hit these individually. All right, so the second section that we run is around cover letters. So a lot of job ads, when they're advertising, they'll ask for a resume and a cover letter addressed to whoever the decision maker is. If your first language isn't English, then sometimes this can be problematic. So it's often good to get some sort of a template, and also when you're in a rush, it's good to get a template for the types of things that you're looking for. Within a cover letter, it says in the bullet point, it should be personally addressed. So find out who the person is that is likely to be receiving your cover letter. A lot of the time it'll say on the job ad who to address it to. If it doesn't, just do a quick search on the company's website. We'll have a look on LinkedIn and see what you can find. Basically, you should be able to get those details. Use a formal letter format. So if that sounds a bit scary and you're not quite sure, basically if it's actually a template in most word processors that will do that. But a formal letter is, you're trying to communicate in a professional manner. So you're not using slang, and it will be like a text message style. But again, there's a load of templates you can use on Plume. So when you do look at a resume template, if you decide to use a template, that is, I would highly recommend that you just to make things easier, but also for the consistency between your cover letter and your resume. They can look very similar if you're using them together. So again, click on the URL and you'll be able to get yourself a template from there. Your resume is a snapshot of your skill sets, your intentions, and your previous career to date. A cover letter is more you responding to the selection criteria. So I wrote there even the desirable ones within the selection criteria. So you're basically trying to provide answers to the selection criteria within your cover letter. So what you need to have a think about is when you're reading the job ad, what is it that they're actually looking for? Can you summarize that? And then once you've summarized that, what are the key areas? What are the what is the selection criteria? So usually in a job ad it would say this is the company, this is the opportunity, this is the role, this is what you need qualifications wise or experience wise to be successful within your application. Just focus on that last part and see how you can answer those questions succinctly by summarizing and pretty much getting to the point. So if you've got a cover letter that's really long-winded, it's probably not going to get read. So try and keep your communication to the point, and also be mindful that most applications are going to, especially entry-level ones, they're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants. So be sure that you summarise well and get it proofread. Ask a friend for their opinion, and again, use the online spell checks. Okay, so the third session is all about networking. So realistically, the networking aspect of the business world right now isn't happening all that much. What with COVID-19, I see that as a massive positive personally, because what it does, it gives you the opportunity now to work a lot more proactively with your resume, with your profile. So in the 14 years I've been advising people on how to find their dream job, perfect job, or just find a job, the first thing I'd say is don't follow the masses. So what I mean by that is if you see a job ad and you apply for it, then you are going to be one of many candidates doing that. But if you can use networking to your advantage in the sense of you identify hiring managers, within organisations or within markets or silos that are relevant to your skill set, then you can start being a bit more proactive, and you can prepare certain questions around, what is the process over there? This is me. I'm looking to get into the job market, this is what I'm looking for, can you help me with that? If you have got a story, so if you've come here from another country, if you've had to fled your your homeland, don't be afraid to say all that. If I get a letter out of the blue of somebody saying, look, I'm in the country, this is my history, this is my background, this is my intention, I'm really, really keen to find some work, and I'd just love your advice, or whatever it may be, or if you pass me on to somebody, the chances of me responding to you and helping you are literally 10 times higher than if you don't tell me your background and your story, because you're just another person approaching me. If that's the case, not saying I get inundated with requests or anything like that, but the point I'm trying to make is if you can if you can identify who the relevant people are by using LinkedIn, then you can really help yourself there. So with this networking, this is a bit of an old slide really, talking about confidence and your posture and who are the key people in the room. Well, that room now is now turned to an online room, hasn't it? So it's a little bit different. Again, I'd ignore that slide because it's not relevant in the current climate. Alright, so personal transferable skills. So have a think about this for yourself. What can you bring to a role? You're not always going to have every criteria or every skill within the criteria it's asking for. So personal transferable skills are stuff like your communication. Can you use technology? Can you talk about technology? Can you talk or give me examples of where you use teamwork? Can you actually use teamwork in a group situation? Are you organised? Can you problem solve? These are all types of skills that are constantly going to develop. So if you think about it, the way that you're going to improve these is by coming to seminars, it's by doing tutorials, it's social clubs, hobbies, that type of stuff, getting yourself out there, being confident, I suppose, and trying to engage with people as much as you possibly can. Also, another thing to have a think about is what kind of skills is the job looking for within your resume, and can you marry them together? So a lot of the time with application tracking systems, basically what that does, imagine your resume goes in the application tracking system, just scans your resume for keywords. So be sure to have a look at any job advertisement that you're looking for, and pick out the keywords and make sure that they're included in your resume when possible. Don't go overkill on that type of stuff, because it can just read really poorly if you're just constantly including the word admin assistant, for example. Okay, so the next three sessions are in and around interviews, and so before you go to an interview, there's a preparation that we recommend that you do. So have a complete understanding of what the organisation does. Does it sell products? Does it offer services? What is it? Who are their customers? And also, as importantly, who are their competitors? Because if you don't know this, don't go to the interview. Because one of the first questions you're going to be asked is, so what do you know about our organisation? Well, if you don't know anything about it, it's not going to start well. If you can't talk passionately about it, it's not going to go well. So it's really important that you get a real understanding of it, and don't be afraid to ring up reception if you're really stuck, and can you just clarify? I'm just looking on the website here. Can you explain to me exactly what you guys do and what you're known for? 5-minute conversation with an internal staff member might be the difference of you being successful or not. Also, find information around the person that's interviewing you. Obviously, it's not always possible. If you can find anything in common, that's always good. That's why LinkedIn is another great tool, because if I'm connected with person A and the interviewer is also connected with this person, then maybe I can name drop that person if I know them well. If I don't know them that well, I'm just randomly connected. Maybe don't use that approach. But my point is, if I'm going to meet with somebody, I can have a look at their LinkedIn profile. I can have a look at their socials. Often, their Facebook page might be available for me to have a look at. Just have a look. They might be, this person really likes, rugby or whatever, some sort of sport or some sort of affiliation. Okay, when you're having that conversation, would I be right to say that you're a rugby fan? And little things can make a big difference when you're trying to build a relationship in what is a very unique scenario in life, where you actually sat down in front of somebody telling them how good you are. That doesn't actually happen that often, so it's a bit surreal. So once you understand clearly what the business does, you know who their competitors are, you know who the customers are, you know a bit about your interviewer, ask about the important things you could not find, so you can go through and demonstrate that you've done some research, but maybe there's some things there that weren't clear, and maybe they can clarify that. That's always going to be a good practice, because often you'll be interviewing with somebody and they might have different ideas to what the company website or the information you found says. So it's always worth running through that. Choose the correct attire. So right now I'm smart casual. If I was going into head office of a bank tomorrow, I'd probably put a tie and a shirt on, most likely a jacket. If I was going to a tech company, who were in the business-to-business services type space, I might just wear a shirt without a tie and some chinos. Try and understand, what the general dress code is, just so you can fit in more than anything. Okay, so before your interview, what I'd like everybody to start getting in the habit of doing is recording themselves. So if you've a smartphone, you've got a camera most likely, so you can record yourself that way. If you've a smartphone, you can, or a laptop, you can voice record. Anything, even if you haven't got those technologies and you have to just stand in the mirror, that's better than not. If you've got some friends that can help you, or family or loved ones, whatever, again, it's good practice to go through things, talk about your background, talk about your relevance for the position, talk about your intentions, talk about your story if you've got one. Because personally, if you've got a story, if you've got a background, I personally think you're at an advantage to not having one. You can look at it either which way, but the way I see things is most people are good, most people are nice, most people want to help. So if you explain what your situation is and where you're trying to go, people are a lot more likely to want to help you as well. So don't be afraid to just be honest. Nobody ever got in any trouble for being honest. And then obviously plan your route. I'm 45 minutes from the CBD. If I've got a meeting, I will give myself at least an hour, if not more, because I would like to get off the train. I know the directions, I've checked Google Maps, but even if I haven't, I'll make sure, and if I'm there 15 minutes early, I'm absolutely okay with that. I don't go to the receptionist and tell them that I'm here. I'll wait till 5:02 before I let them know, but I'll just confirm that I'm in the right place. Yes, that's right. Okay, perfect. I'll be back in a bit, and I might just go for a walk, get my thoughts together, have one last little look on the company online or whatever that might be, and then I go in with confidence. Print off a couple of copies of your resume. That's not always required, so don't worry too much if you can't do that. It's more of a nice to have. If I'm interviewing somebody, chances are I'm going to print their resume off anyway, so I won't worry too much about that. But might be a nice thing to do. And then just make sure you check the weather as well. The amount of times I've interviewed people and they've clearly just run 4 blocks because they haven't done this right, and they're just sweating profusely. It's not that pleasant. Or they're just drenched because they forgot their umbrella, or whatever it might be. All right, moving on to the next slide. It's the STAR technique. So basically, a lot of people often say, well, what do you mean by STAR? Well, if you imagine yourself in an interview situation, I've taken this from the Balance clearly. So listen to prepare before the STAR technique starts. So you prepare, so you listen to the question and think of an event, and then the way that you'd answer that would be situation, describe the event or situation that you're in. Task, explain the tasks that you had to complete within that. Action, describe the specific actions you took to complete the task. And then the result. Close with the result that you of your efforts. So what I'd like to give an example is when asked about certain experience or how did that go, I would firstly paint the picture. Okay, well, I was working in this organisation, this was the situation, just to give them an understanding. It might be market conditions or whatever that I need to talk about that. So this was a situation we were trying to get from A up to C. So these were the tasks involved. This is what I completed. The team did X, Y, and these were the actions. Explain how in what order and how you did that. And then always when you're given the results of it, don't say I was the man. Can I tell you how great I was? That's not going to go down well. Say, look, the team did well. As a collective, we think we hit the result. Realistically, in reflection, I probably didn't know much about this at the time, so now I think I've learned I'd be better, and the results would be better because of that experience. But don't be afraid to, give an honest assumption when you're given the results. Now, the reason I go through the STAR is because it's mentioned in the during the interview session, which is session 6. Within the session, the key things to note are to make a positive first impression. So posture. I wrote there handshake. This has obviously been written a while ago, these slides, but whatever it is now, the old elbow or even nothing. I'm not quite sure what. Maybe just say, what are we doing, But yeah, COVID's made a bit of a change on that front. But look, first impressions are obviously going to be important. So make sure that you've got this positive persona. Even if you've had a stinker of a morning, nothing's gone well, try and carry yourself with that confidence, smile. Don't be afraid to make a joke about yourself or whatever, just be yourself. Always bring some writing tools, but also ask for permission. So, is it okay if I make a few notes during our conversation just so I don't miss anything? Just shows that you're taking an interest. You don't have to write every single word for word like you're transcribing the whole thing, but key points. It shows also when an interviewer says something and you go and you write that down, even if it's in shorthand. A, it shows you're listening, but B, more importantly, shows you're interested and that you care. Answer questions using the STAR framework. So have a play with that. Maybe have a think about previous experiences and putting it through that framework. The first few might feel a little bit odd, but then as soon as you get in habit of answering questions in that way, I think it'll stand you in good stead moving forward. Ask questions, use your prior research and interview notes. So what I mean by that is if I'm interviewing somebody, which I do all the time, what do you know about us is one of the key things. And then when we're going through the interview, I judge people on the types of questions they ask us as well. So at the end, you'll always have, do you have any questions for us? The worst response to that is, no, I think we've covered everything off. No, that's a bad response. You should have hundreds of questions if you've done enough research, because there should be loads of things about the organisation, the culture, what's it like to work there, what are the people like, what types of characters and personalities have done well in the business and why. These are all questions that you can ask. So don't be afraid to ask about the interviewing individually about things. There's no bad questions in the interview when it comes to that sort of thing. So questions are good. As you're nearing to a close, okay, make sure that you thank the interviewer for their time. So an example of that would be, Dave, can I just take a moment to thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know you're a really busy person. It's been my pleasure to have met you, and regardless of the outcome, I've really enjoyed the experience. So thank you very much. Something along those lines is better than thank you for your time. Make a point of, I know you're busy and you've given me your time. I really appreciate that. And then don't be afraid to say, do you mind if I send you a connection request on LinkedIn? It's something I'm new to, LinkedIn, or it's something I've been working on recently. I'm trying to build my network of talented professionals or respected people like yourself in the industry. A little bit of flattery will probably go a long way during these things. Now obviously, with the advent of COVID-19, and even before that, to be completely honest, there's always been phone interviews and there's always been video interviews. So, when you're doing a phone interview, make sure you can hear the person on the other side clearly. So avoid doing a phone interview whilst you're on the bus or a train, or it's likely to be loud. Make sure that you're in an appropriate place. It's just going to go against you otherwise. And have all your documents and your support materials. I personally think a lot of people see phone interviews as a negative. I think they're a positive, because if you think about it, if you're interested in an organisation, you've done all of your research, you've got notes all over the place. Well, in a phone interview, nobody can see you looking down at your notes anyway, so you can literally just post-it notes, everything. Have key things to cover off. So phone interviews are great for all that stuff. With a video interview, my hack behind that would be put all your stuff behind the video, so I could be looking up here somewhere, but it's not so obvious. So but again, with the video interviews, test your microphone and webcam in advance. I definitely have been guilty of that one today. I was testing it for the last half an hour, but it was a bit unclear. So if I'm taking my own advice, I should probably test my software a bit better myself. Dress professionally. You don't need to wear a three-piece suit all the time, but a shirt is fine. If it's a corporate environment, maybe a shirt and a tie, maybe even a jacket. But very few businesses are going down that route. In fact, most companies, because I consult to quite a lot of different businesses, a lot of businesses right now are moving more towards this type of attire, the kind of smart casual stuff. Don't worry too much around that. Just make sure you haven't got offensive clothing or messaging on your clothes. I think that'll be fine. And obviously make sure you've got your supporting materials and reference materials at the ready. Okay, so after the interview, you really want to record and write down a list of questions you were asked. Make sure that you give yourself at least half an hour for this, a bit of self-reflection. Ask yourself if you provided strong and proper answers. If you didn't, then that's okay, we can fix that. So the next step would be to send a thank you email or LinkedIn message or whatever the best way to contact them. It could be an email, whatever. Or even, if you've got their mobile number, send them a text and thank them. That's fine. There's no right or wrong here. basically, it's important that you send that thank you to the interviewer. If the interview didn't go 100% to plan, and there was things in there that you weren't quite sure on, don't be afraid to, you've done the reflection, you've written down your thoughts. Don't be afraid to say, oh, look, in reflection, I think I probably could have answered a little bit better on this question, or if I had my time again, I'd have probably given this example. Just the fact that you've made the effort to send the email and highlight those things makes a huge difference, and leaves the right impression in someone's mind, because they could be thinking the same thing, and you've identified, it's an interview, anything can happen in an interview, it's not always a true reflection of someone. So don't be afraid to do that follow-up. After your interview, notify your references, alert the references to get ready for a call if that's where they're going and they've asked to contact them. If not, obviously don't. And then follow up with the interview 1 week later, and just ask what happened. So, sometimes you can be unsuccessful, but that's fine. If you follow up and you ask and you get some feedback, then that's a positive, but often, if you haven't heard and you follow up, and you do it in a nice, polite way, then the chances of you leaving a good impression and for those people in question to have you in their forefront of their memory, it's not a bad thing to do anyway. So, and often, interviews can last for weeks and weeks, because there's lots of different people involved with the interviewing process, so they've got to all line up their calendars. So if you haven't heard, often it doesn't mean you haven't got it, but just to have that continuous dialogue will go a long way. And then again, if you didn't get the job, that's kind of normal, because if you think about it, the percentages are stacked against you, even if you're the perfect candidate, because let's say there's 10 interviews, well, you've got a 1 in 10 chance then, haven't you? So it's not, it's not massive odds regardless, So just make sure that your best practice is, doesn't matter if you're successful or you're unsuccessful, be sure to thank the interviewer for their time again, even though you've done that face-to-face, thank them again, and ask for their feedback, because if you spend the time to do that, chances are somebody will give you feedback, and they might say, you know what, you interviewed well, but you just didn't, you're lethargic, or I've had, the candidate didn't brush their teeth, they had bad breath. I said, oh no, how am I going to give that feedback to my candidate, or whatever it is. It could be anything, but I've had a case where, I've had to give that type of feedback, and it's not easy to give as a middle person, believe me. But the candidate is taking that feedback on board, and then the next interview, whatever the ailment or whatever the complaint was, they put right and they've got the job. So it's not always a negative, is the point I'm trying to make. So feedback is good. All right. So the 8th topic here is personal brand. So you can go on to if you type in www.mail, as in mail.com, I don't know whether they're still doing it, but you can get an email address, but you can say, so the one I selected was carl.rowlands, which is obviously my name, and then it had all these different things.com, so I chose @email.com with an E for elephant. If you could have @biz.com, whatever, there's heaps of different ones, but it's free, so that's a good one, good little practice to do, because then if you think about it, you've got an email address that you can just dedicate all of your job applications to. That might be a good thing to do. If you don't like the mail.com feel, and which I wouldn't be too surprised, it's not the best, and you prefer Gmail or whatever that might be, see if you can get a professional, so first name dot surname @ I won't repeat some of the email addresses I've seen in the past, but some of them are just horrendous. You just think, has this person even thought about this? I don't know. Yeah, just make sure they're professional. And then for your personal brand, how can you promote yourself? Well, blogs are a big way, but if you're not a writer, you don't like writing blogs, that's fine. But what other ways can you promote your personal brand? Again, I'll keep saying it, get yourself a LinkedIn profile. I consult to a recruitment agency who are a national agency. All of their recruiters use LinkedIn to find people. Every recruiter I've ever known uses LinkedIn to find people. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you're not likely to be found, so make sure you're on there. And the main reason I'm mentioning LinkedIn is because you can share, follow decision makers within your market, within your silo, within your geographical region or area. So I think if you want to increase your personal brand, LinkedIn is a brilliant place to start. You can upload evidence, you can upload lots of different things onto your LinkedIn, and then you can follow, and share things that are important to you, but also so an example I might give, I'm very passionate about helping people who are either refugees or seeking asylum in the country. So when I see because I follow a lot of the services within this sector, if I see something I like, I just share it, because that's me saying I support this, It could be a bad example, but the amount of times that somebody has liked or reshared that post or whatever it might be, and then the amount of times I've then started a conversation with those people, I've lost count. So it's worth doing. So just get on there, get on people's radar. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be looking for mentors in this world. I often say a mentor can often sound like a part-time job without the salary. You know what I mean? So don't be expecting everybody to want to be a big mentor and provide you loads of time. But if you ask them a simple one question, I respect everything you've done, your profile looks brilliant, I'm in this situation, I'm thinking I've got two choices, choice A or B, what do you think would be better? 9 times out of 10 somebody will say, oh yeah, choice A or B, whatever. They're a lot more likely to help you out that way. So if you need mentoring or you need advice on a few different things, why don't you break them down and send individual questions like that? You'll probably get a lot more answers that way. And then if people have got the time or the appetite, then they can offer you more advice, and maybe you do get a mentor from it, but don't expect people to just want to put their hand up and give you 20 hours of their time every week. That's not likely to happen. So carrying on with the personal brand, keep Facebook or WeChat or whatever you guys use for your personal stuff, and then LinkedIn as your professional life. Ensure that your information is accurate and consistent on all platforms. So if you're saying you worked at Z company between date A and B, make sure that's consistent if it is mentioned anywhere else. Your voicemail on your phone is something that you can work on and get really well. That's something that's in your control. So the amount of times I've phoned candidates and they said, hello, leave a message. You're just thinking, no thanks, I'm not going to leave a message. So just be professional, try and put your best foot forward in every platform. The other thing to consider is the grandparent rule, and what I mean by that is if you're lucky enough to have grandparents, which I don't anymore, unfortunately, but if I was, it's just a saying really, or a term. Would I be okay if they saw all of the content that's online about me, whether that be on my Instagram, I don't use these very often, or my Facebook or LinkedIn? Would I be okay if God rest them, my grandparents could see this information. And if the answer is no, then that probably needs to come down and be taken offline, because if I'm a hiring manager, regardless of what anybody says or whether they admit it or not, I speak to heaps of hiring managers throughout the country and globally, actually, and I can almost guarantee you, nobody will admit to this, but I can almost guarantee you they'll run a search on that person online, see what comes up. So if there's dreadful stuff online, Google search yourself. It's quite a fun thing to do. See what's on there, make sure that if there's stuff on there that shouldn't be there, take it down. Okay, so next thing is LinkedIn. I make mention to LinkedIn all the time. I really am a fan of LinkedIn, and I'm happy to teach you how to use it to the absolute maximum when we get to that session. But basically, connect with all your classmates, connect with absolutely everybody you know, lecturers, join industry groups, anybody that you know in a professional format. If you've volunteered, just connect anybody you can. If you use email, you can sync all of your contacts from email, from a few different places actually, and then they'll search for them on LinkedIn and send them a connection request. Do all those things. I highly recommend it. The more people you've got in your network, the better, because the way it works is, if I've got 10 people in my network and this person over here has 10 people in their network, well, if we're connected, then I'm now third connection with whoever's in his network, and so it goes. So the more connections you can get, the better. So don't be afraid to spend some time on this each week to really build that up, because it's important. Okay, so the next bullet point there is, unless you're on LinkedIn, this slide might not make much sense. So get on LinkedIn. Did I say get on LinkedIn? I really am recommending you all get a LinkedIn profile. If you do nothing else from this, do that. Okay, so on there you can get endorsed. So you might go to your lecturers, you might go to your colleagues, might go to staff members, might go to your managers, work manager, whatever. But on LinkedIn, it'll give you a section of the skills, and often it scrapes it from your profile. But yeah, like the skills that so I think on my one I've got interviewing, recruiting. I can't actually remember all of them. Coaching, managing, who knows. And then people can endorse your skills for you. So if they think, yeah, that guy can definitely interview, I'll endorse that skill set. It's really nice when people do it for you and you always thank them. So go and do it to everyone you know, because chances are they'll return the favour. So endorsements are really important. Recommendations are always good. If you haven't got a long-winded career that you can ask for recommendations for with your employment history, then do character references. Anything is going to help you, because when you do get to LinkedIn, or if you're familiar with it, what it'll do is you'll have, I don't know the number, but let's say there's all these different sections to fill out on your profile. Once they're all full, you've got a full profile, your chances of being found on LinkedIn automatically increase by tenfold, because the way LinkedIn works is very similar to the way Google works, in the sense that you get a score. So if you are a website that has lots of government links coming into your website, if you've got lots of video, lots of content, and it's a very engaged website, then the chances are your score is going to be higher on LinkedIn, therefore you're going to be, on Google, therefore your Google score increases and you're going to be found. Same thing on LinkedIn completely. So the more engaging you are and the more people follow you and share and like and all that kind of stuff, and the more information, more importantly, and keywords that you've got in your profile, the more you're going to come up on people's searches. Okay, and then repost interesting articles, leave comments. We spoke about that briefly before, but big advocate of that stuff. I think it is important. You'd be amazed how many people are looking. So as a rule of thumb, if you're new to LinkedIn, you probably need more than 10 minutes a day, but I would recommend you try. If you've no access to the internet, try and go to a library, just get online, however way you can, and spend some time on this, because it's you can have a resume and a cover letter, and it might go to one place. Your LinkedIn is accessible to the world, so yeah, I'm a big fan of this, obviously. Okay, so when you are sending an invitation to connect, do not use the default invitation message. Write a customized message to introduce yourself and remind them where either you met or whether whatever's relevant. So for an example, if I'm looking to connect with somebody, there's usually a reason for that. So, hi, Margaret, noticed that you're working for X company. I'm doing a bit of work with that business or a similar business, and I'm interested in connecting, introducing myself. Or if I'm looking for a job, hi, Graham or whoever, notice you've got you're working at Z company. I'm really interested in working for that business. Wonder whether you had any kind of advice. I was hoping to connect. Most people will just say yes, no problem, that's fine, and the good people or the people with more time, might even reach out and give you some advice. So don't be afraid to do it. But if you just send a connection request, the first thing they want to do is, who's this person? Do I know them? No. And if you keep getting rejections, it can look like you're a spammer, so you don't really want that either. So just be careful about all those stuff. Okay, so on your LinkedIn, unlike your resume, you do want to get imagery. So there's two sections. There's the banner on the top, and then there's the profile picture. With the profile picture, I'd say professional profile photo. But the way the world's going these days, that's less and less important. I think the main thing is that use the grayscale what would it call, filter if you can get access to it, because it kind of just makes everybody look good. So yeah, but don't have a picture of you down the beach, because it's not professional. It doesn't make any sense unless you work on cleaning beaches or whatever. Yeah, so just be mindful of that. Try and keep it, a headshot if possible. And then on the background, you might want to put something that's important to you. There's no right or wrong answers there, but if you're applying for jobs in a certain sector, then maybe have a look at that sector and see whether you can find a banner that's relevant. But don't spend too much time on there. And then with your your picture, keep it quite plain, keep it headshot, and a lot of people have like their puppies and that's just weird, so don't do that. Alright, so ATS. So we're drawing to a close, so just bear with me. So your ATS is basically your application tracking system, and just imagine this as Big Brother's watching. So whatever you put on your resume, put on your LinkedIn profile, a lot of them now are scraping information off social media pages, which I don't really agree with, but anyway, if it's online and it's a good, really advanced system, it'll probably find all the keywords. So avoid using tables or complex formatting elements within your resume, because the ATS won't like it. Now the templates that I'm recommended from Plume are a little bit different. I won't get into the weeds of it, but basically what it means is if you were to do that on Word yourself, it'd be all over the place. It'd be quite hard to format, and the ATS won't always be able to pick it up. Where in the if you just did it Word, straight text, it'd pick up no problem. If it's graphically designed in one of those formats, they're designed for an ATS to pick it up okay, so they're pretty much good to go. And just make sure all the keywords, all the employment dates, projects, experience, everything we spoke about is clear, and always summarise to the transferable skills and your personal, background and your skill sets. any extra imagery, logos or symbols, take off, because the ATS won't know what it is and it will struggle to pick it up. So just be mindful of that. Alrighty, so that was the today's session. I hope everything worked out okay, and yeah, I look forward to catching up with you all very soon. Please do send me your feedback, and yeah, thank you so much everybody for your